After a little bit of a wait there, obviously we're back with another day of XGS here, and I got Chukka. How you feeling?
I'm doing all right. Ready to get into some Siege. It's a new season of XGS, something that's been long awaited for a while, and I'm excited to see some of the newer teams that we don't really normally see in T3. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's always nice to have an event like this to really see everything come together. And as I say that, we get to see the recap of what that Playday 1 was, Karn and Co. getting themselves in the second place with Ballsack Nation first ahead, and with a pretty big round differential as well to work around with.
Yeah. Noticeable thing about most of these results, at least from like what I'm seeing, is the fact that a lot of them just are basically results that ended up in OT for the very first play day. So it wasn't just like only one team or a couple of teams maybe getting like a very dominant win. The only one was that, of course, of Ballsack Nation over SSG Academy, which I didn't really expect. I'll be totally honest. I kind of expected maybe JJ's team to win, but not in a 7-3 way. But the rest of the results look very healthy. 8-6, some 8-7s as well. So yeah, pretty good first play day one, and it should tell you just how competitive season 8 is going to be for Xenon.
Yeah, I mean, if that's one day in, three overtimes in one play day, that's certainly a good sign for the future. Certainly a good sign for this next match coming up, Unity versus Orgless.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very good matchup. Of course, Unity and or well, specifically Unity, they did get their opening win, or their opening game. They got their very first win against Team Sesh. It was a very close game on Fortress. When I was watching that game last night, I did notice that like not Sesh, but Unity had like a solid lead on their attacks, and that's when I logged out because it was quite late for me, and I went to bed. And then I just woke up and I see that like it didn't actually go so dominantly for Unity. But the important part for them is that they actually won. They do get those 2 points, and I think it's kind of like important to kind of like talk about a little bit about Unity, because they are like all of the teams here in season 8. They come from the closed section of the 3-part qualifier for XGS season 8, and they, just like Guns and Co., who also won in their opening game against the team that Unity are playing up against today. They also went 3-0. So like this Unity team, they're looking pretty solid. They have some really good firepower additions, Vic Bands most notably. But like Kiro and BJL have also been like very good individual players throughout the whole qualifiers, and also in their very first game against Team Sesh.
Yeah, I mean, 29 kills in just those two alone is a hard thing to tap, and it's a hard thing to even reach again. So we'll see, obviously, if they can stay at that same level, stay at the same consistency of what was probably one of their best performances we've ever seen. But I think going to look forward to what should be a better matchup, in my opinion. I think we can hopefully see even better from Orgless. Obviously, a overtime loss, 8-6 for them, but this is a big comeback for them. They want to try to get another, just something going here as a win. Franklin, Inrio, Solo, all of them, I think, have that big in them. And more importantly, Uzi. We saw him drop 20 in their game. They're sadly a loss for them, but it shows that there's still a lot of fight left in this team, even if they did start this season off, maybe not how they wanted.
Yeah, you have a ton of good experience on this roster. I think when we saw LFO play in the SI quals, or even in the closed section, a lot of people were looking at the solo pickup as something that was like very good. And in my opinion, it is still a very good pickup for them. Solo is not necessarily the most consistent player in T2, but he's somebody who can have really good performances. He's a really good firepower addition after Rival left to join DZ, and he's just a really good pickup. But I think more recently, especially with LFO, and especially if we're going to go off of the first game of season 8 of XGS, he had like a really tough time, specifically as an entry, which is what he's been picked up for, to kind of fill the shoes of Rival GN. And so we're not really like, Uzi is somebody who I'm going to expect to like perform, but I also want to see if like Solo can like bounce back after such a poor performance, something that I'm not used to seeing from him.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the shoes of Rivals, a pretty big thing to fill there. And as we get into those map vetoes, we're going to have ourselves, in my opinion, one of my favorite maps, a beautiful chalet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, just waiting for the vetoes to finally end, and yeah, it is going to be revealed that Chalet is actually the final map. I think there is no surprise by any of the vetoes here, especially namely the Fortress and the Clubhouse ban. LFO banned Clubhouse, presumably after their result last night against Sin Guns and Co., where it just seemed like maybe most of the time some of their attacks were super readable, and also they just kind of like fumbled a lot of mid round situations. They had a tough time playing on the defensive side of the map, specifically with like the way that they extended or even just their lack of extensions on Clubhouse. And that's something that Unity is just going to take advantage of against you. So LFO did right in banning it. Fortress is also a pretty solid map for Unity. They have shown that they really want to play Fortress. They want to be one of the few T2, T3 teams to actually play this map. And LFO are not really is not really a team that can pick up new maps. Like it took them a while to even really pick up Lair, and that was really only after we saw like a whole, I think, couple of seasons of different tournaments went by, even like NAL. So yeah, I didn't really expect them to pick it up, but yeah, I think Chalet is going to be a pretty good map. LFO pretty solid on this map, and Unity no different.
Yeah, I mean, it's been two maps for them now. I think they've really come to these veteran maps here where it's a lot of experience from both teams. You know what you're getting into on a chalet. There's no doubt about it. You know how the sites are going to roll. You know exactly what your plan is. This isn't an experimental map. This is about proving where your fundamentals lie. And more importantly, if you can show that bigger refinement, what is generally a more passive game for LFO. Obviously, Unity with Vic Band, with Kiru, with BJL, it's a super aggressive team at times. It's what feels like they can take over sites and entire roam clears in just seconds. So it's obviously going to be maybe how can they slow that down? How can they really try to put the brakes on what is probably the most aggressive roster currently in XGS?
Yeah, and I think for LFO, you have a ton of to prove here. I think ever since like Element 6 started, the one thing that people kept talking about with LFO when it came to their expectations is that they shouldn't really a- achieve or want to achieve anything less than a grand finals appearance or a land finals appearance as it was in Element 6. And they did just that. They achieved less than that. So, you know, ever since Element 6 really started, it seemed like Orgless or even Alix, as they were once known, have kind of plateaued and stagnated, and it hasn't really. They've gotten some really good pickups, but it doesn't really look like they're getting any better. I know that they added the former TSM analyst and data onto this team, so that's some really good experience to have in a roster, and I think is a really good pickup for them. So hopefully that can elevate them a little bit more. But I think after that game against Sengunzico, I hope they had a really long talk with themselves just to kind of like elevate their own expectations of themselves and really the expectations of individuals because like Uzi played well. I thought Enrio had a couple of good like potential clutches, even I think one clutch on Clubhouse. But like yeah, the rest of the pieces on his team need to perform a little bit better. And it is just that a team game. That's the one thing Orglis kind of really elevated themselves off of is playing as a team and not really depending on individuals to do the heavy duty for the whole entire roster.
Find a lot of those rounds where they did get the early pick. So they're obviously going to see if they can bounce back here, get themselves back on the right foot. Because this is a very important game here. Going down 0-2 is hard to come back from for any team. Doesn't matter how strong you are. But if you can get a 1-1 here, you can still look good enough, and it's still a chance. Yes, people, as you mentioned, they've had some stagnation issues at times, and there's been a lot of accusations of that. But if they can really just keep going through, keep that big fight alive, and show that you might have had a couple of bad events, but we can still really regroup ourselves and find our way back.
Orgo's going to be starting us off on the defense. They're going to be on the second floor of of master bedroom and offices. And this doesn't really seem like a typical take, like a library take on the opposite side of the map. Rather, it's going to be a trophy focus where really the only thing that's over here is like a Malusi Banshee for the time being, but Orgos can always just kind of like reroute their whole attack. They have a ton of utility here, so not even just the Malusi Banshees, but a lot of the Naris to just kind of like slow down the initial entries as well.
Yeah, and as you mentioned that, they slowly see the Grains find their value. Spiff getting maybe a little bit aggressive here, trying to get rid of the ace, but the Flash should at least get a hole going. Obviously not the full level of use they'd want from it, but a sightline is better than nothing here, and that's going to be the important part. Had as well. spots a walking cross spiff. He's going to sit in bathtub, kind of trying to just hold on the oncoming assault because he knows if he can find his way and continue to hold this bathroom strongly, this could be his big way to get his team on the board. As I say that, Band's already putting the aggression on the board here. They know where he is. If he gets hit by just a dash of Capital Fire, could have been the issue, but instead Rep will find it. Now you're going to see shots coming wide from Band's. Not quite the pick, but certainly a lot of damage and a bit of spook.
Yeah, I believe that was Spiff in the middle of sight. They also have a ton of vert pressure that they can use here against Orgless, who have kind of, for the most part, have back. They're not really battling for any type of map control. And off of that Solarium control and the bathroom player now being dead, this is a free plant for Unity to go through.
Yeah, and the bodies come flying there. Kiru goes aggressive despite having the diffuser. Finally, seems like the post plan is the play. Uzi has the angle on the hat, looking for more, but Rep is still sitting in these corners, still getting himself a double, make that a triple in the round. Unity start off about as strong as you could ask for. You know, you had that big player. You know, everything this team is built off of these players having big hero rounds consistently. And I think the roster is so magnified for that level of aggression that it feels like every single round can facilitate any of those players really going out there and just continuing to find pick after pick.
Yeah. And if you wanted to know what BGO was talking about, they actually did play each other in the close calls, did Unity and Orgless. And Chalet was the first map that they played against Orgless, did Unity, and they beat them 7-5 on it. That opening round just seemed a little bit too easy, and I think the reason why was because it felt like even with like the setup and the utility around the Solarium area, so there was only one Melusi Banshee, but the Denari gadget was also like the laser, like that was from like bathroom all the way crossing into the master bedroom door. That was there, yes, but like it just felt like Orgless just kind of like gave up a ton of map control. They didn't retake down below neither to like stop the book from like basically just exhibiting so much pressure against them. And that was one thing that they kind of like did against Senguns and Co in their defensive setups too, where it felt like, yeah, there was no heavy roam and they gave up so much map control and it just allowed Senguns and Co to just basically set up the round the way that they saw fit, use vert against them a lot. And it seemed like at the end of the day, Orgless really had like no late round plan because their late round win conditions were ripped away from them.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be very well be an issue long term if Orgless can't find a way to get something going in the early game here, because the aggression that Unity shows could certainly cause issues, put a bit of a monkey wrench in Orgless's plans. But so far, Spiff sticks himself back on the Denari here. I think those lasers are going to be strong on Chalet. It's been a very consistent pick for the group, and he'll be the one to pick it up mostly so far. Already going to see a fight get very, very close here. Solo. There's at least somebody in library, not quite sure where, and it's one of those, you know, do you want to push aggressive here? Do you want to go for that pick onto Rep? It's, I think, a big ask you got to have, because Orgless as a passive team, they're not going to generally take these fights, but I think if you want to set the standard, show that we can do something unique, they really got to try to go aggressive here and just get the risk going, take these fights.
Yeah, and Reaper's position in library, especially like because he was like so close up on the window, he can also hear the players rotating off of it. That's a good trade from Kiru. That's immediate sight control off of that too, but they have to be a little bit wary about any of the vert pressure here that Orgless still has.
Yeah, and Kiru are... Yeah. Kiru going for the plant, but Spiff has an angle onto it. Seems like they had something going. Franklin and those Valkyrie cameras will do wonders for BP as well. Pretty much every single piece of intel here is going to make it a hard plant, but finding one more should help. Getting it just a little bit closer, but the problem is always going to be they have so many bodies on the upstairs right now. They can afford to really bob and weave away from any fight they don't want to take, but they can use these whenever you go for the plant. They can use all of these annoying verticality spots to really their advantage, because so far, you really haven't pushed at all on that upstairs.
Yeah, they haven't really been pushed at all. I don't think that was really the main focus here of Unity. They're gonna still try and plant again, but like the vert is just so good, and also sound cues when you have the vert open and how sound propagation works through holes is so powerful in this game. And so even if you think you have a free spot just because you destroyed all the cameras, you really don't, because Orgless can hear it all.
Yeah, and it's gonna be finished off by in Rio, another round, and more importantly, a big one here for Orgless. Kind of back up. And I think this is, once again, you're seeing the flaws come out maybe early for both teams here in terms of what they may struggle at and what you may see them exploit. And maybe they're a little bit too one-dimensional with that attack there. They really tried to hard commit, and while that can work, you're gambling so much on one plan working. But when you have all the bodies upstairs for Orgless, when everything goes just like that, it's impossible. You can't have a one-dimensional attack on a site predicated with so much verticality.
Yeah, and also there was just like a ton of info as well for Orgless. At some point, Unity had to commit to like a top four take or even just pressure the top four players, whether that's putting somebody on the Solarium windows and having some sort of vision inside of the master bedroom closet area, which is where the vert usually is whenever you're trying to plant in kitchen. That didn't really exist for Unity, and like you mentioned, yeah, just super one dimensional. They kind of just had like one plan. They hoped it worked, but because there was just so much info on the side of Orgless, it didn't really work for just that exact reason, information. And so now Orgless are going to be switching over to a different site. It's going to be the games and the games and bar games. Bar games
Yeah.
area for them. They're going to be playing, and they are going to be committing some bodies up to the top floor.
Yeah, and already, if I'm looking at Unity here, I think they have one plan in mind and one plan only, and it's pretty signature for their style. I'm seeing a Blitz. I'm seeing the Thatcher. I'm seeing, more importantly, a lot of smokes here, a lot of utility they can throw out to maybe cover that aggressive play there, because they know the upstairs is going to be hard to fight. But if you send maybe just one or two bodies up there, but more importantly, you commit everything to downstairs, it could very well be the option. It may also be wrong, but it feels like with everything grouping up here with Hat, all of the bodies just waiting for this perfect moment here. When that go-ahead comes in, you're going to see within seconds, all the bodies file in. Everyone's going to have to try to do something, but if Thatcher can't stop it in time, Inrio's going to get the C4 off. Kiru goes down, and your post-plant dreams are sadly going to be gone already. And this round's going to get a hell of a lot harder for the group.
Yeah, I think that's diffuser as well in the middle of site, but there's a big gap inside of fireplace. BJL has snuck all his way in, and he's gonna be able to kill the warden. That's gonna give you a ton of space inside of the site. The clash is just stuck between the window and the bar player, and now that is how you turn around on its head. Unity eventually try to get the plant down, but Soul is able to deny it from the hatch.
Seems nobody is getting any level of ground here. The second you think you have an advantage, it gets taken right back. You're also going to see a bit of a hiding from Solo. He's going to stick himself in the library corner. Doesn't want to play anything too aggressive here. They at least have the Thatcher there to really help, get rid of some of the utility there. Disable at least a little bit. But the problem is always going to be hopping in here against Solo with the DMR. It's going to be a hard shot no matter how you play it. And it's kind of just that waiting game here. Do you swing it? Do you go down below maybe and try to bait something in the timing, but a nade goes wide? Instead, BJL will do it from below. He's going to get that body going. The advantage does finally follow the direction of Unity now in that minute point.
Yeah, you have a ton of crosses holding the top floor, so even trying to... Wow, that shouldn't really be happening. You had the cross in those sandwich window. Spiff is in a 1v1 after he grabs one. Vic Bands does get the diffuser back in his hands, but Spiff still has vert control, and he's picked up his teammate.
You're looking for a miracle here from Vic Bands. This verticality is going to make it so hard, but he might have found the spot for the plant. Now it's, can he win this fight early? He does. He makes it two. Huge play from him. Already, we're getting some crazy plays from the man himself. It seems the superstar is shining bright tonight, as already probably one of the best clips we've seen of the entire season. And we're only 3 runs in.
Yeah, I mean, that round was quite a crazy one too. Like, not even just from the clutch, but also from the very beginning. Unity clearly wanted to go for like their rush with the blitz going in, then disabling the Aruni gates. And I don't know if there was a Banshee on the window, neither for games too. But if there was, they tried to disable that. They didn't really disable the warden gadgetry, but that didn't really matter because the warden threw a smoke before he activated his glasses back, and that killed the blitz. And then from there, I mean, Unity had a lurk from BJL coming in from Fireplace, going into Bar Stock, killing the Warden, but they didn't clear top floor. There's a lot of things in that round that Unity technically missed. They didn't clear the stock player initially, then they cleared him. They didn't clear the library corner player, then they cleared him. And I mean, when they cleared the library corner player, they allowed somebody else to retake library corner. But in the end, like we highlighted before, Vic Bands is probably going to be one of the more highlighted players, and for very good reason. He was a good clutch player on Carnico, and he's going to do it here again for Unity.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those players that feels like whenever the round goes down and out, he can always drop a triple to save it and bring it all together. He certainly does that today already. And we're only 3 rounds in here. We're on what I'd argue the advantageous half for Unity, as despite most teams obviously leading defender sided, as that is the more traditional sense, I think the aggression so far has shown that, surprisingly of all things, Unity is a stronger attacking team. by the numbers. They can still have good defensive halves, but overall, the dominance is going to be on this early side here, and that's a big thing to watch out for.
Yeah, to be honest, like Unity have tried to like poke and prod and like little gaps here and there from Orgless. Like we saw that just in the last round where they tried to like walk somebody or walk basically the whole team into trophy and get a trade kill so that they can like free up site and then try and plant because Orgless didn't really have the vert necessarily prepped around dining or kitchen. Last round, they tried to like do it again and rush directly onto site. This is a pretty decent opener. Solo, who's been struggling on openings, dies first. And again, Unity try and just take a bunch of space in piano.
Ask for more from the BJ with the trade, at least trying to keep things together. Now at that 3-3 even point. And once again, this is what we expect to do. Aggression is going to be the signature card for the side of Unity. It's going to force a passive team like Orgless to really consider taking early fights, whether they like it or not, because they're either going to give up significant amounts of space every single time or forcefully take these fights. Aggressive in Rio play there. He's going to at least back off, keep himself safe, sitting now behind that half wall. He's got to be careful, as anywhere he looks, there's a body lurking.
At the moment, it's going to be really hard to enter sight because Orgless are playing quite aggressively. But, you know, that's going to be super hard to do that against ACOGs, and eventually Enrio gets dealt with. That's sight now, and they have a good post plant behind the half wall.
And another body fall. Hat takes it away. Now you're going to have Spiff trying to clutch up. We've seen big ones from him, but he's going to need to go nuclear and drop a triple just to keep another clutch going. I mean, 2 clutches in a row would certainly be an entertaining game, but it's not going to be easy by any means here. The prones as well, they absolutely know as Unity, even as the aggressive team they are. All they got to do here is hold the crosses they have, play it safe and smart, which you got to do in this case, and you're going to get one here at least, but the body's got to come flying in, but Hat's just got a prone on the ground, wait for his moment, and more importantly, another round for the group of Unity, another one to see.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest as well, kind of like talked about it at the beginning. Even though like Orgless didn't necessarily struggle in their opening engagements, maybe on the attack of Clubhouse against Sand Guns and Co., they did struggle on like losing opening picks a lot against Sand Guns and Co. on their defense of Clubhouse. And so that's something that's kind of been like a consistent issue in this game as well. It feels like, you know, at least for me, like opening picks doesn't really feel like Unity are very afraid to just take the fights directly to them and immediately use that to take site control. And so like you're left wondering, well, what can Orgless really do? They've been trying to play like a bunch of trap operators. They've been playing information game. So technically they're doing the right things. And you can't really dedicate too many people to site because you need to contest for map control, especially on a map like Chalet, especially on this dining room site. So at this point, you have to like kind of like look at maybe what's going wrong in the early round. And that's what I'm also going to be looking forward to as well, because I haven't really seen them do a ton of things wrong in the early round to suggest why they're giving up the early picks, and especially why Unity just feels so comfortable just hitting gaps against them, especially with all these traps on the board and with Bravo Band.
I think that sometimes the answer to a team like Unity and their aggression isn't necessarily rooted in a logical reason why. It's that that's how they play. They're a very mechanically based team. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you can try and change them as a coach, as a player. I think these players are all built for that aggression. They've played that aggression for so long, and when they're together like this, it feels like it's amplified to 10. Even if there's trap ops on the board, even if the utility says you shouldn't, Unity is always going to take that risk and go for it. And while it can certainly be a positive and has shown to be so far, it's always that risk, because eventually it could catch up to them there. The utility is too much for them to deal with. The amount of bodies on the board, the traps or crosses being held is too much to deal with there. But finally, Orgless gets entries on the board, make that a 2-player advantage as well, but taken back at least by Kiru to get them in that 4v3.
Yep, but on the back of that, Unity, they still take site control too. But I mean, a lot of this information, we kind of saw this in round number 2 when Unity went for the same exact site rush. They're gonna try it again, but this time they're actually sending somebody down below to apply pressure.
Big play here, getting them up. Solo though, gonna find BJL. This is where it gets hard Vic Bands and Kiro have certainly seen a clutch in their time. We just saw one recently. Let's not act like Vic Bands can't have that clutch gene in him, the ice in his veins, if you will. And with a shotgun in hand, this is a perfect position, but he's got to move fast because all the verticality is being made against him. He's really got to try to take a fight, just keep buying time, more importantly. Doesn't matter what picks come on the board. All that matters is that clock goes down enough. Vic Bands makes it 1, makes it 2 now. This shotgun does wonders here. Now you're going to see another one come from Kiro on that SMG-11 instead, and finished off by the sidearm from Vic Bands. And more importantly, this man apparently is the clutch gene and the greatest we've seen in a long time in that late round.
And yeah, BJL is totally right. They are doing the same thing every single round. They did the same exact rush on Dining and Kitchen. And yeah, it didn't work the first time, but the second time it works. And the reason why was because that time Orgless isn't really able to like deny the plant. And also their retake just seemed a little bit too difficult. Vic Bands was stuck in trophies that whole entire round. And they had Vert on him at least like 2 times. And they still couldn't kill him. And he finds a way to like maneuver around all of that Vert, push himself into Red Hall. Orgless are having issues killing the West main player, and Vic Bands just activates off of his teammates' contact. It is the same thing being ran again and again and again here against Orgless. And like you mentioned earlier, like it's just Unity are such a mechanical team that maybe it doesn't really matter and it does defy all logic that they just win these rounds anyways, just because they're just winning a ton of gunfights that they probably shouldn't be winning against Orgless.
I mean, at some point, I don't want to say it because I do feel it's a little rude, but I think Unity won. And what their logic is right now is that we haven't seen a single thing stop us. There's been one round, it was because they didn't push the verticality well. Other than that, they have been absolute aggression, consistency, and there hasn't been any breaks to it. And there hasn't been anything to really slow them down and say, hey, let's rethink, let's maybe bring a little bit of strategy to this. You know, why think this extreme strategized game like Orgless is trying to do right now when your gun is right there, when it feels like there's no need to think so hard about maybe the placements of bodies or about specific things and strategies when you trust yourself on the gun so much.
Yeah, and also like they only sent one player upstairs to like apply pressure to Vert, and that was enough to like scare Orgless off and just like stop like using Vert altogether to like stop plant, which was in I think the same spot that they attempted the first time that they tried that dining room plant and failed. So yeah, it's kind of a crazy one. It's 4-1 up to Unity, and yeah, they have every reason to talk a bunch of trash here against Orgless because it feels like it has been a little bit too easy to just like walk at them and walk inside of sight and take a bunch of space.
Yeah, and you'll at least see a bit of consistency in terms of the ops pick from Orgless. Maybe not
Mhm.
good consistency, but consistently nonetheless. We're seeing a lot of DMR, specifically a Rooney has been a big pick for them. Uzi as well, and Malusi isn't a surprise. We know he loves to bring it. And, I mean, after a 20 bomb last game, I can certainly understand that they're going to allow him trying to maybe use that with the good utility it already brings. And with a comfortable gun, let him on the op there. I think in a situation like this, you need to try to facilitate your big fraggers here because it's aggression in that's winning for the side of Unity, and you really need to try to match it. You need to keep up the ante. And swings come wide. Kiru with, I'm assuming, an Elamine at himself, but it doesn't matter. He still finds the pick. Everyone is running in at the same time. They said go, and all the bodies came in. Franklin on the upstairs can try to make something happen, try to make miracles come, but it's just such a hard fight here as you can't even really find a good one. Deimos will obviously have the shotgun to use in any real situation, but play the flank here. If he can play the right angle, a triple now, maybe Franklin can keep his team together. Maybe he can stop it all from happening, but he's got to do it. The shield on his back, just a little bit of time remaining here. At that 20 or so second mark, this is where you got to worry, because that, so remember, diffusing takes time. The farther you're away, the more it's going to take to do it. And they have the angles, they have the bodies now to afford to just play in, play this scary game. We'll swing one time, we'll come from another. You can find a pick if you're Franklin, but realistically at this point, all he has to do is swing. This is another round for Unity, and more importantly, a 5-1 dominant attacking half.
Yeah, and it doesn't really seem like it's going to get any better for Orgless at all. I mean, in that round, it was like really good misdirection. A lot of the times there from Unity, they sent somebody up the basement stairs. That was Kiru playing as Deimos, just going up blue stairs, while I think one person like smoked off the games doorway that leads straight to Ivy stairs. That allows some room to be made around the fireplace area where we saw Vic Bands run in with have a ton of space made for him. because of the distraction that's caused over by Ivy. He's able to get site control off of that and also net himself a kill on the only site anchor. There's been like some misdirection throws here from Unity. So it's not just like, oh, they're just running in and killing Orgless and it's all mechanical. No, there's been some misdirections from Unity. And also, because there's some misdirections, there's been some pretty big gap hits from players like Vic Bands, like BJL. It's not just one player doing it, it's everybody here on Unity doing it, where it just feels like there's just a ton to exploit here. They're having a lot of fun playing this game just because of how much they're able to do, how much they're being allowed to do here against Orgless.
Yeah, I mean, they set the standard early on with the aggression. As you mentioned, a bit of smoke and mirrors here can go a long way. Because you see one body, you're going to assume four with Unity now. And Orgless are put it in probably the worst situation you could ask for. Still winnable by any means. I've seen a comeback in that time, but this isn't going to be easy. You have 5-1 now, and on your disadvantageous side by the numbers. So for Unity, it's looking about as good up as it could be. You're going to see them obviously pick, I think, into the weapons a little bit more than some teams, giving Vic Bands that DMR. Even when it can be good, I think everyone and their mother knows they're giving Vic Bands the DMR because he's Vic Bands. Because if anyone is going to drop a double kill, a triple kill in a round, it's going to be him. So, just try to fuel that aggression, fuel what made you win these many rounds. Just keep it up.
I'm pretty sure they have a drone in there on them. They had like a ping on there at first. They're gonna most likely ping him with the Deimos tracker first, or just wait for him to just run out, which he'll do right now, and he'll get caught out. So that's an opening pick from Solo. And yeah, that's BJL dead off rip. That's one of the roamers that's on basement, actually, that could protect the bottom Ivy stairs. So yeah, that kind of sucks there for Unity, but they have had some good rounds where they're able to claw back man disadvantages.
Yeah, you can never really count them out. In a 1v2, you see it coming back. In any round, it feels impossible. It feels like the comeback is always around the corner for them. So I would not be the man to say, it's over, there's no chance, or this roam is going to be gone. I wouldn't be surprised if we even see a lurk from Hat, maybe, of all people. Has the Malusian MP5, so he's going to get himself already aggressive in that snowmobile garage, seeing maybe what he can find on that side. And Franklin, up on the roof in the middle here, with half of the round gone, he's not even in the building.
Yeah, I think at the moment Orgless are still like assessing their options. This is like one thing about Orgless that you kind of come to love or hate depending on how you feel about it. But sometimes they just like to take their time in the mid round and in the late round too, just to get things properly set up. They are a very systems-based team, and they're going to try and clear out this library corner so that they can possibly free up a good runaway to plant inside of games, free of that hatch being taken in control of the defenders.
Yeah, and you're at least going to see a little bit of the aggression come in. Nade as well. Not quite going to get Vic Bands. Solo as well finds a pick. Apparently on library stairs, the lurk works successfully. Kiru goes down. Solo now with a triple. He's the beating heart for the team, and he's also unbelievably low now. So they're going to have to rely on other people, and that will be done with Franklin on the blitz. All the pressure comes in on Rep, and it'll eventually end with Spiff. Finally, a little bit of hope here. Finally a round for the group of LFO Orgless.
Yeah, solid round as well for Orgless. It's a really good response. And well, maybe not to the rest of the scoreline because you have 3 rounds to go before you're able to tie the whole entire scoreline up. But it's a good round nonetheless because like they get the opening pick, they're able to snuff out any like Unity aggression, and there wasn't really any like Unity re-aggression for the rest of that round. Like if there was, it was like shut down pretty well. They caught out the basement lurk as well. So a lot of isolated plays that Unity did, Orgless just shut down really, really well, and they had no issues with retaining mana advantage throughout that whole entire round. And I think the one thing that Unity might have trouble with on their defense is because they like to just run at people most of the time and they don't really like to slow themselves down. They're going to have an issue doing that against Orgless, who do like to take their time, who do like to get information, who don't leave any stones unturned, and won't fall victim to those sort of tricks.
I mean, you mentioned it, obviously, in that little bit of pre-show there. There was an entire point there where you were just like, oh, it's done. The attacking half is already like this. There's no way. And then you see stuff like this. I mean, it happens. I think this is sometimes the kryptonite of Unity right now, which is that their defenses can be a little weak by the numbers. They're essentially a flip team in terms of what is normal. They are one of the greatest attacking teams in XGS by a mile. They are unbelievable. Defenses are a soft spot right now. Well, that can certainly improve over time. As of right now, we've seen entire comebacks essentially form on the fact that they can't really handle defenses sometimes. I think the more, as you mentioned, the more standardized you have to wait and see and react or hold ground isn't a Unity style. They like to go aggressive here, and obviously isn't really decided to do so.
Yeah, I can kind of tell from this lineup as well from Orgless that this seems to be like a very solar heavy take, so they're not going to really waste any time doing like a library overtake on the top floor like you commonly see teams do. This is something that's become a little bit more standard is these Solarium takes with the castle. They're going to try to fire out this Solarium player, open up the master bedroom wall. That's going to be quite difficult because they didn't really fully fire out the Melusi. What the heck?
The madness swings in like crazy. Apparently, once again, as you mentioned, Unity is built off aggression. There might have been no logic to swing that, but you know what? They're gonna swing it. So now you see a pick there for Unity, another entry to add on what has been an insane repertoire. Spiff at least takes it back. Getting rid of the Melusi does help, but that ace is going to have significantly more value as the round goes on. The Melusi gets already placed down, already stationary. Your aces were in the pockets, waiting to be used, but they'll stay dead and gone. Bit of a hurt there, obviously. Now you're going to see a pickup from everyone else. You want to see this 4v4 point come back here. You know the aggression from Unity can be their blind spot. So play it right, and more importantly, let them play these aggressive baits. At least BJ finds Spiff, make that a triple. Apparently the DMRs are good. I'm all about here saying, wait for the aggression to come at you. Apparently not. No, he's going to be a battering ram into your attack. He's going to get another advantage going for Unity. And now at 50 seconds left, a two-player, huge momentum shift.
Dude, I'm gonna be totally honest. I have no idea how BJ was able to just flick on the guy on his master cutoff, and how Glass has not killed him from like the bedroom window cutoff. This guy should be dead to rights to at least two of these angles. Maybe he can get a kill into the Solarium player. That's cool, fine. But getting a kill into the master bedroom player and Solo can't kill him neither. Like, this is getting really bad. He's ratting. Vic Band's able to cover him, and now Solo's left in a 1v4. This is going to be potentially a match point situation here for Unity.
Yeah, but a nice shot onto Vic Bands will at least keep the ball rolling here. But with 10 seconds left, you can do all you want. Unless they line up for you and you get the craziest collateral seen in Siege in sports history, it seems like you're going to have to lose this one and go to a match point for Unity at 6-2. I've seen a comeback from this. I've seen Dark Zero win 4 in a row to get themselves to an overtime and clutch shot. So it's not impossible. I don't know if they have, a coach as good as Dark Zero's, but it's still possible. Let's be honest. There's still a chance with how aggressive Unity can be.
Look, man, I'm gonna be totally honest, bro. This is like LFO versus this is not Dark Zero. So I'm kind of worried for LFO because this is kind of getting a little bit bad. Like I say, it is pretty bad. I won't lie. Like that last round, BJL should not have gotten 2 of those kills. The take that LFO were doing was very Solarium based take. It was a very Solarium based take. They killed the Solarium player. They're able to open up master bedroom wall. They put themselves on cutoff. Solo's able to get onto the on a bathroom window with nobody pressuring him on highway. Whoever that was on the master bedroom window is on master window, and he kind of has that cutoff too. And both of them are kind of in charge of putting that master bedroom player in their place, but they don't do it. He kills a Solarium player who's trying to take space that was Spiff on the Lion, and then he turns on the master bedroom window cutoff. And now Orgless are in a 2v4 with no map control, a bunch of bodies lost, a bunch of utility used, Capital boats included, and they just gained no control off of that. That's not a good round at all, and it kind of doesn't give me any hope for any type of comeback. But I mean, maybe Orgless can do it.
But I have said many times before, a comeback seems impossible. And it feels like every single time I say that, I'm going to be proven wrong. So I'm going to stay quiet today. I've seen the caster curse me way too many times. I'm not going to say anything yet. It ain't over till it's over. I mean, as corny as it is to say at times, it's true. I've seen comebacks galore from teams, even Orgless. No, maybe it isn't the prettiest. And I think they tell you this. Even if they come back, they'd argue this is a failure on their part in terms of how they play. But it's all about playing the round here. It's all about forgetting what happened in the past, forgetting that maybe you didn't have the prettiest start. But 4 rounds here. Not impossible. It's certainly going to be a struggle, and especially with BJ getting that first pick.
Where did he kill that guy at? Either way, I mean, that's Uzi down already. This is like a really aggressive library hold with some basement presence that Orgless kind of figured was here because Reaper shot like at the wall, and he's gonna get a kill, and I can't believe he's kind of got that. That's kind of crazy. Franklin's down. That's IQ. That means these Valkyrie cameras that are across the map are just gonna be so much harder to spot, giving them a longer lifespan.
And the job gets harder in another one from BJL. Apparently the DMR with the ACOG is the greatest thing this team has ever discovered. This might be a caveman seeing fire. But now Inrio at least gets something on the board. We're back in a 4v2. There's a chance. We've seen this reality. We've seen these games. Can we please see a 2-player comeback to get to an even game? Possible? Maybe. Is it likely? I don't have a comment there. But Spiff at least finds one. Keeps the dream rolling.
And now we wait because for Orgless, again, the main thing that I'm seeing is that they just don't really have a ton of map control. You still have a DMR in office. You know, BJL could totally just back up and play like long angles. You still have Echo up. That means you have a ton of plant denial to work with as well. So even if Orgless do try and get a plant down, they're kind of getting into choke time a little bit too.
Yeah, but 30 seconds running, coming in here. Inrio still just trying to push in. BJL is playing the non-unity way, hides in the corner, makes it a triple for his round here. Now the 2v1, we just saw Vic Vans win this only a couple of rounds ago, so maybe the fate can change. Maybe they can siphon the clutch power Vic Vans once had, give it to Spiff, because he's going to need it. With 10 seconds left, it's going to be miracles among them, and not going to be an easy one by any means. They can run, they can prance around. Kiru's going to finish. Unity wins in one of the craziest games we've seen. Attacking was the most dominant side.
Yeah, to be honest, like for Chalet, I'm not too surprised that Attack had like a really good time on this map. I'm just surprised by how good of a time Unity were having, just like how it was a really good time for them. I can't stress that enough. But also just how like easy it was for them, especially on like their attacks, where it just seemed like there was a ton of reasons to just walk at LFO. Maybe not just walk at them neither, it was also just them walking into sight, taking map control for free, and then sometimes LFO just allowing them to have it. There was like that first round that we saw where it was like Unity, they were focusing on doing a Solarium take, and there was no pushback from LFO whatsoever to really fight for Solarium or really fight for that side of the map. It was for the master bedroom and office area. They just allowed Unity to take that space without really any plans to retake it. It just felt so easy for Unity. Oh my god, I just can't believe how easy that felt for them. And it's a good win for them. One in regulation as well. And they're the second team in Season 8 so far to have a regulation win this dominant.
It's the second team to have a regulation win this entire group so far. I mean, obviously we saw probably one of the craziest Playday ones, so it did skew the stats a little bit. 3 overtimes back to back to back is maybe not the quid pro quo. You're not going to expect that every day, but that'll be a beautiful game here, a beautiful run, and we'll come back in just a little bit.